Hi everyone. Thank you very much for being here. Today we're going to do the 5th session on how to work with fear. So we have extensively discussed many aspects related to fear. And normally I do a little recap at the beginning, but this time I'm not going to do it because otherwise I will not be able to cover all the material. But if you're interested, then you can go to my YouTube channel and have a look at the 4 previous sessions that we did on how to work with fear. So the last time we talked about how attachment and how aversion, which are big contributors to our fear, how we can apply antidotes to them so that they become less strong in our mind. When there is less attachment in the mind, there will be less fear in the mind. When there is less aversion and anger in the mind, there will be less fear in the mind. So today we're going to talk more about the root cause. Where is fear coming from? So today we're going to talk about where fear comes from in terms of what are the causes from fear, and how we can reflect on the nature of reality in order to counteract fear. So do you agree when you know the causes of something, then that it is very empowering for you to free yourself from the cause? Just think about that. If I know what is the real cause for my fear, does that give me some kind of power or ability to remove that cause? Right? And if you can see that knowing the cause of fear, there can be kind of freedom from that fear that can come from that. You know, keep that in mind while we're doing the session. Because sometimes talking about the causes and how we ourselves create the causes, to hear about that is not so easy. But if you know that by looking at that, you actually get an ability to remove it, you know, then it encourages us to really look into that. So we first need to lessen a little bit the fear before we can really start looking into the root causes of the fear, right? So that there is a little bit of space in the mind so that we feel that we can hold ourselves and nourish ourselves when we need it. And so I think today is the day that we're going to look deeper into the fear. And first we're going to talk about fear in the sense of what are the causes that we create that causes fear to arise in the mind. And so far we have been talking a lot about the conditions that make fear arise in the mind, right? Can you remember what conditions that we spoke about that cause fear to arise in the mind? Attachment, that's correct. The more attachment we have, the more fear that will arise in the mind. What else? If we have attachment and nothing else, is fear going to arise in the mind, or do we need other conditions for fear to arise? Anger, aversion, yes, and they are strongly connected with attachment as well. Grasping mind, which is also related to the mind of attachment. But we all have that, right? We had that before COVID-19. We had all this, we were all having a mind that was ruled by attachment, but we didn't have that fear that is triggered now. So what else is needed for fear to arise in the mind? Politics. So how does politics make fear arise in your mind? Fear from the unknown, yes. So with what is happening right now, there is a lot of uncertainty. that we do not know what is going to happen, and that can cause fear to arise. Do we feel in danger? There was a lot of misinformation, and oh, I just forgot what. I just saw something interesting. Let me have a look at chat. Yeah, when there is a lack. So when we have the feeling there is something is not enough, also then fear arises in the mind. So there is a lot of fake news, and fake news, I mean, does fake news, well, we're not going to discuss which news is the fake news. But I think even hearing the news again and again and again and again in a certain manner triggers the fear, right? Makes it more true. It appears so true when everybody says the same thing. When everyone gives you exactly the same message. Right? And then every time when you hear it, you think, oh, it must be true, it must be true, it must be true. And then more fear gets triggered. Yes. So I think also what can trigger the fear is maybe the thought that we might lose something that we have, right? You might lose your job, you might lose your house, you might lose your income, you might lose your, maybe a family member, you might lose your health, you might lose, the fear of loss. There is also, when we think we're going to lose something, then due to our attachment to the things, fear arises in the mind. All right. So then if we're going to look into the cause of fear, what is the main cause of fear? And I'm going to talk about Buddhist point of view, right? That's my job. That's what I learned to do. So fear, if we talk about fear, we said is an unpleasant feeling that arises in dependence on we perceiving a threat to our life or to our possessions. And so that comes with fear. So it is a feeling. It is an experience. Feelings in Buddhism are seen as the result of actions that we did in the past. So due to past actions, whatever we experience today is a result of past actions. So how does that work? So if we, according to Buddhism, if we engage in actions, then every action that we engage in has a result maybe in the outside world, if we talk about verbal actions and physical actions, but also every action leaves an imprint in the mind for something similar to be experienced in the future. And so how do we experience that in the future? By feeling whatever we are feeling. So if I have a lot of causes for fear in my mind, and something happens in the external world that makes that fear arise, then strong fear will arise. But if I have not so many causes for fear, then even if I'm in the same condition as the previous person, whatever is happening in the world is not triggering fear in me because I do not have the causes for fear, or not so many causes for fear. Right? So fear is an internal experience. And Buddhism says whatever happens externally are all conditions for internal experiences to arise, but they're not the main cause. The main cause for whatever we experience is in our own mind. If we have not created any actions that cause fear, we will not be able to experience the result. But the fact that we are experiencing the result today means that we have created the causes for that. Okay, so that is how Buddhism presents cause and effect. So in general, in the big picture, we can say every pleasurable experience, whatever pleasure that we experience, which is our happiness, comes from actions that were not harmful or were beneficial. They came from virtuous actions. And every unpleasant feeling that we experience comes from, unpleasant experience comes from non-virtuous actions, comes from harming others, including ourselves. Right? So if we say fear is an unpleasant experience, then we would have to say, okay, then the causes for that must be something similar, must mean I must have inflicted things upon others which caused fear in their mind to arise. Right? And I know we're all quite good people, no? We are all trying our very best. We are all trying to be mindful of what we're doing. We're trying to be not hurting others. And still we have this karma. How come? Right? So we can do two things. I can say, well, in the past you must have created some negative karma, even if you're now a much better person. But I think we need to look a little bit more careful than just saying, oh, it's coming from past life and this is just a result. Because I think still at the moment there are conditions in the mind and there are things in our actions that are also conditions for this fear to arise. Yes, the main cause I do think is created in past lives. But then there are a lot of things in this life that contribute to our experience. So before I go there, I say a little bit about how karma ripens. I don't know if everybody has heard about how karma works. So in general, we can say karma has 4 ripening results. The first is what is called the fruitional result. And that refers to the rebirth that we take. So we're all born as a human being, and that is a result of virtuous karma. That is a result of having practiced morality and giving and also patience for many, many, many lifetimes. So having this human body already shows that we have created a lot of virtue in the past. Right? And then in this body, we have certain habits. We have certain affinity with behavior. These affinities, and some people say that's my character, or that's just who I am. You know, I'm doing these things, that's just who I am. If you strongly identify with this, then probably for many lifetimes you had this habit already. Right? So habit is a result of karma. Habit is a result of having done an action again and again and again. So by looking into our own tendencies, how we tend to react in certain situations, we can see our karma. Right? So that is the second way karma shows itself. And then the third way is that karma shows itself by whatever we experience. And they say whatever we experience is an experience similar to the cause that we created. So if I experience that I cannot buy any food that is nourishing my body, that is a result which is similar to the cause, in the sense that I must have done something that wasn't nourishing for others or was taking away nourishment for others. So that can either refer to acts of stealing, or it can refer to acts of damaging other people's health, or, you know, something like that. So that is the experience similar to the cause. Whatever we feel, whatever impression things make upon us, you could say, I must have done that to others. If we wouldn't have done that to others, there's no way that we can experience it. All right. So with this one, it's very important that we do not take out the stick, the guilt stick, and start beating ourselves up. Oh, the fact that I feel so bad must mean I've been such a bad person. No, it doesn't work like that. You know, it's just like throwing a ball against the wall and the ball is coming back to you. There is no judgment at all. It's just something coming back to you. And so you don't have to say, I must have been bad. No, we all have engaged for many lifetimes in positive actions and in negative actions, right? As long as we have ignorance, as long as we have not realized the nature of reality, when there are dangerous situations, we all have the tendency to defend ourselves and then maybe to harm the other person. We all have the tendency, if we see that our family, our children get, I don't know, if they are hurt by our enemy, we get very angry and we're going to kill our enemy. We all have engaged in these actions, right? We don't have to say, well, not me, you know, no, I would never do that. We all have done that. We have done everything many, 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 many times, right? So it is not about good or bad. It is about, you know, if we could see the suffering in human existence, the suffering within existence, we can see that in our attempt to be happy, we create causes for suffering again and again. Even if it looks like, well, we're not doing a really bad thing, we're not really harming anyone, we're just, you know, good people, still within that, if we analyze more closely, there is still non-virtue in that, And so the only way, so the reason why we look at karma and where things are coming from means that you can change that. Means that you're going to get some tools, you're going to get some power that is going to help you to do things differently. And if you start doing things differently, then certain karmas, they're just not going to ripen. Or they get purified and they can't ripen because of that. So what I would like you to do is when we hear about karma and when we hear about something is coming back to you, that you do not beat yourself up, but that you say, hey, what an opportunity. How can I do things differently? Right? The beating up has no purpose in any way. It's just actually preventing you from getting into your own power and changing your life and changing your mind. I know for many of us it's a big habit, but so when you see yourself with a stick trying to say, oh, you didn't do it right, you know, put a stick back. We're all trying our very best and we're all learning and we're all ignorant. And so slowly, slowly we can move our life into another direction. And it's not going to happen overnight and we will make many mistakes and that is all totally fine, right? So I want you to be gentle with yourself, listening to karma. So we have had three aspects of karma. The first, the fruitional result or rebirth. The next one is the result similar to the cause, which the result similar to the cause in terms of having a habit. And the third one is the result similar to the cause in terms of experiencing something. And the fourth way karma ripened is with the environmental result. So if we look into the situation at the moment, I think we're going to look a lot into the cause similar to, the result similar to the cause in terms of our experience, because we experience fear arising in the mind. And then the second one is the environmental results, right? We have something happening in our environment that is not so easy to be with. And so that is an environmental karma, and that is the karma that we share. And at the moment we share that with the whole planet, which is quite rare to have an environmental karma that you share with 7 billion people. Right? So we're going to look a little bit deeper into that. Let's see. So if we think about our actions, and if we think about, okay, fear is now my main experience, and if I experience fear today, that must mean that I have done actions in the past, or maybe even I'm doing actions today that cause fear in others. And so if you reflect on yourself and on the actions that you're doing, what comes to your mind? Can you recognize something like, oh yeah, there I was really trying to scare someone, or I did something that I can see is causing a lot of fear in that person? Or do you remember anything? So fear also comes from unresolved things, somebody says, from having postponed. And if you haven't resolved something, you know, then something in the past, you have experienced something in the past, right, that caused a lot of fear. So then maybe you don't look today, but you look to that experience and think, okay, so what if I have done something similar to somebody else? Can you remember that? You can't remember too much. Maybe I should ask the question different. So can you think of actions that you are doing that cause, maybe not directly you causing fear to somebody else, but you participating in a way of living that causes fear in others? So you're not going out and harm someone, you're not going out and kill someone, you're not going out and steal or intimidate people. But what are we doing? Where are we causing the harm? What we do to the environment, can you tell me a little bit more? What are we doing with the environment? It could be a small thing, gossiping. So you mean by gossiping, you're causing fear in others? Don't know about that. Could be, but the plastic, the rubbish that we discard, how is that causing fear? In which creatures are experiencing fear because of what we are doing? Maybe through influencing the way others view someone in a negative way. Yes, so when I hear that other people have been talking about me and they're really talking badly about me, I might fear my reputation, and then fear arises in the mind. But what if we go to harming? You know, I don't know. I thought I need to come up with some kind of examples, right? And I thought, what about who's eating meat? What about the meat industry? Right? If you look into how we harm animals in order to satisfy our needs, And if you know that before the animal gets slaughtered, so much fear arises in the mind, right? And this is not that I'm going to say, oh, we all have to become vegan. Not at all. You know, I'm not going to put anything on you. But I do think we have to start seeing where the harm happens. Because at the moment, all that harm, that what we are doing with our lifestyle, has been made totally invisible. We don't see anything of that, right? The rubbish is picked up every day, and everything looks very clean. But where is the rubbish? You know, what are we doing with it? Where do we throw that? Okay, some more answers coming. So many people are aware of the harm we are doing with killing animals. Yes. I don't think we recognize animals as sentient beings equal to ourselves. That's true. And someone has family who works in the abattoir, you know, and if you talk to people who work there, some people, they really cannot handle it because they're killing and killing and killing and killing. Some people don't mind, you know, but it doesn't mean that when you cause fear in an animal just before you kill the animal, that fear leaves an imprint on your mind. It leaves it's similar than what that animal experienced. And so then at one stage, somewhere in the future, that karma is going to ripen. Yes. So there are a few things with animals. So we first of all, we do not see that they are similar to us in that they also just sentient beings who want to be happy and who want to be free of suffering. Right? We do not realize, according to Buddhism, the animal mind is exactly the same as the human mind in terms of we both have the potential to become enlightened. The potential of the mind of an animal is exactly the same as the potential of the mind of a human being. Which also means that after I die, I might be born as an animal. Right? I can also be born as other kinds of sentient beings, not necessarily as a human being. And I think we do not realize that could be us. Oh my gosh, that could be me. That could be me. And so what I sometimes find helpful is that I think, how would my life be when I would be reborn as a dog, or when I would be reborn as a pigeon, or any other type of animal? And then I try to really zoom into that and see the world through their eyes and experience the world through their eyes. Of course, I cannot do that totally, but still putting yourself in that position and think, what kind of life do they have? You know? And would I like to have that or not? And if you do not want to have such a life, then how do you prevent yourself from going there? Right? Because as a human being, we have great fortune. You know, we have, karma can sound very scary. But actually, as human beings, it's not that difficult to create a karma to be reborn as a human being again. Once we are born as an animal, it's very difficult to come out of that. Right? So we can use this lifetime to create the causes to be reborn as a human being again. So human beings, animals are exactly the same as us in that they want to be happy and they want to be free of suffering. Their mind has exactly the same potential as our mind. So in that way, they're equal to us. But the way we use animals is like they're a kind of second race that we can use however we like. Right? So we need to reflect on that. And that doesn't mean that if you feel that you want to eat meat, you know, that or you have to stop doing that. I'm not saying that. But you can think about, do I want to eat that much meat as I'm eating? Or you can think about, okay, I'm eating this meat. Maybe you can think about the animal before you put it in your mouth. The animal that gave their life so that you can sustain your body. And maybe you can do a little prayer over the meat, you know. Maybe, I don't know, my Tibetan doctor here says, just say some mantras, you know. Om Mani Padme Hum, and you blow it on the meat. And then she says that's good for the animal. So we can think about things like that, that you are more aware that your life, the sustaining of your life, depends upon other sentient beings. Right? So then what we are doing with animals, I think we also think that we're not so worried about their feelings, right? So we treat them like, you know, put them in little cages, or, I mean, they do horrible things with animals, and I do not want to go into that whole story. But it is like we treat them, they have no feelings. I was recently in Mahamudra Center in New Zealand, and there are many cows around, and so they get little cows. And then after 6 weeks, the truck comes and loads up all these little ones. And the mothers, they go crazy. They, how you say that, boo? They boo. For days, looking for their kids. Right? We take their kids away. So imagine, as a human being, somebody takes your kid away, what it does to the mother. So why do we think an animal feels something different? You know, and I think just by thinking about this, we get so much better connection with animals, and we start respecting their life more. And then maybe from that, first we start abstaining from harming them, and then maybe later we can do things that actually is going to benefit them. Right? So we can think about that whole area, what we do with animals. And then we can think about, and so with animals, just like with human beings, we have a great preference, right, for our own animal. Our own animal is so much more important, and their happiness is so much more important than the happiness of others. We also like certain animals to be close to us, like the dogs and the cats, but we do not like, so we're not going to kill dogs and cats. No way you can kill dogs and cats. But we kill so many other animals, and nobody cares about that, right? And then we see the pictures from China where they kill the dogs, and we are so upset. How can they kill dogs? Dogs, they're so wonderful. But for them, dogs is just the same as a cow here or any other animal that we kill in order to eat. They do exactly the same with dogs. For them, there's no difference, right? But we have this affinity with dogs, so we say, no, you cannot kill them. But I think we can generate that affinity with each and every kind of animal so that we feel like, no, we shouldn't kill them. Right? And then after saying we shouldn't kill them, then you can say, okay, how can I contribute less to that killing? And it's not just the meat. You know, there are so many other products that we use from animals. It's the duvets, the beautiful, with the feathers, the duck feathers. You know, and if you see how the feathers get ripped from the skin and how these animals are suffering, maybe you look for something else to sleep under. Don't throw it away either. You know, when you have it, please use it. That animal has suffered for that. But think about it when you buy it. When you buy shoes, what kind of shoes do you buy? Do you buy leather or something else? So many animal products. So you can look into that, you know. How can I do that? And not as a way to punish yourself, not as a way to become a good person, but out of care for other sentient beings. That you feel like, no, I do not want to do that anymore. So I also thought about, you know, we are driven by attachment. And somehow we got this message, I don't know when it started, that if you can get it cheap, you know, we should try to get it more cheap, so then you can buy more for your money. And so we have, what we have done, what have we done in order to make everything cheap? Right? We move whole production lines to other countries. And their sentient beings are working under the most horrible conditions for hardly any money, so that we get it cheap. Right? And we all do that. Also that we don't have to beat ourselves up, but we have to become aware, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. If I see something that is made in my own country from, say, organic cotton, it's maybe 2-3 times more expensive than when I get something from China. Let me get something from China. So maybe we have to make other choices there as well. Right? For you to think about. And then another thing that we have been doing is, somebody called the plastic, named the plastic, that we have so much plastic and that we throw it all out and we put it somewhere in a hole and we cover it up and we don't see it anymore. So whatever is coming, I think the oil is dead material, right? Dead. And then we make all kinds of things of it. So we have the petrol, but also the plastic and also the chemicals. And if we look into the human body, what is the human body? The human body is a vessel for a life energy to come through. All our cells, when they are in harmony, when they are in tune with each other and with nature, they start to zoom, you know, they start to, you feel like, oh, wow, I feel fantastic, right? Feeling fantastic means that all your cells resonate with each other in a feeling of harmony, and then the mind is also in harmony. We are living material. And so what we are doing is we are adding that material to the planet, to the earth, to our body on many levels. The food, the water, even the soaps that we have, there are many chemicals in that, you know. So the body gets filled with chemicals. That chemical is not gonna resonate with the life energy. When there are chemicals in your body, you cannot feel your life energy the way you can feel it when your body is free of chemicals. And the same for the whole planet Earth. I don't know if you feel that, you know, when this period that there were not many cars outside and no pollution and there is a different vibe in the air. Everything feels different, more alive. You feel life. Life is coming back to the planet. Right? If we engage in a lot of activities, whether that is buying cheap food or buying the food that has been sprayed with chemicals, and again, this is not a guilt trip, but if you look into all the products that are in your house and you wonder which product is contributing to life and which product is actually taking the life away or damaging life or covering up life, and then see if you can make other choices. Right? The most things that are damaging, they're quite cheap, you know, and they're very easily available. And the things that are more healthy or they're better for the planet, in general, they are more costly, but not always. You know, you can also do your own home remedies, which can be very cheap. So you can think about that. Where do you contribute to taking life away from the planet? And we all do that, right? So how can we do that different? Do we want to do that different? Can we see that the harm that we're doing to the planet, it doesn't show that much, is it, that we do that? The spraying that has been happening for 50 years, we don't really see that this is just what we're doing. And most of the time we don't even see that it happens. And we don't see that we eat it, and we don't see that it is in the body, and slowly the body changes, and we think, oh yeah, that's just because I'm getting older. I'm getting all these pains and all these problems, but it's just because I'm getting older. But maybe not. And then you get a cancer and you think, oh yeah, well, everybody gets cancer. But why does everybody get cancer? 50 years ago, hardly anyone got cancer. And now the people get cancer. Why? What are we doing different? It's not because we're getting older, right? Some people say, oh, it's because we're getting older. So then people, no, it's not the old people who are getting cancer. It's the younger people. It's everyone in all ages can get cancer. Why? What are we taking that is causing such disease in the body? All right, so we can think about that. So I think with our lifestyle, I think we are doing a lot of indirect harm to sentient beings. And that means that we do not create a full karma, for instance, of killing. If I eat meat, I do not create a karma of killing because I don't kill the animal myself. But what I do create is I create a state of mind where I do not care. And so that is a lack of compassion. And our compassion is where we can find our humanity. And our compassion is also that quality that helps us to connect with others. And when we connect with others, also then we can feel that energy in ourselves moving. And when that is moving, we feel happy, we feel in balance, we feel that we can be who we are. When we start not caring, when we live from an attitude that says, well, these people in China who have to work in these factories, I don't care. Or these kids in Africa who are going to, so yeah, that's another point. So now we're talking about green energy. Let's make green energy. Let's have all an electric car so we don't use any petrol anymore. But if you see what is needed to get the metals that are needed to have that electric car and where that is coming from and the conditions where people are living there, it's heartbreaking. You know, so every action that we're doing, we're contributing to that. But I think if we can keep our heart open and if we can keep seeing what is actually happening, and then if we try to do things in a way that it is contributing the least to that harm, to that abuse, to that misuse of power, to that slavery, right? It will make us feel good. It will also make us feel more connected. The more we feel connected with others, the better we feel in ourselves. You know, because connection, when we experience connection, there is naturally a kind of understanding for that other person. There is an acknowledgement that that other person exists. There is an acknowledgement that you know what that other person is doing, what they're going through. There is a kind of caring there. So I think with our lifestyle has disconnected us a lot. Disconnected. By taking things away. We couldn't see them. We didn't see them. everything is out of sight and it is almost like it doesn't exist. We never think about it. That is also a lack of care, right? And it is not your fault that it's not our fault that we arrived in this place. But I do think that we can now use our consciousness to reach out and to say, oh my God, what have we been doing? How can we connect everyone with each other again? How can I connect with everyone? Because whatever we have in terms of physical comfort is coming from others. Everything. There is not one thing that we make ourselves. There are always others. And so if you think about, you can go through your day, you can think about, the clothes that you're wearing, the food that you're eating, and you think about where is it coming from? And you visualize these human beings who have been working in order to produce that. And then these human beings have been working in order to get it to your place. And then you try to make a soft spot in your heart and be grateful to them. Right? And even when we can't see them, we don't know them by name, but we can tune into them. And somehow realize, yeah, I know that you did that. Thank you so much. One day I will repay that kindness. One day I will repay. Maybe this is a time that we start repaying, right? That we're opening up and say, oh my God, how can I help you? What can I do for you? Yeah, don't know if this should go here. We are living in a country, we have a government, and then somewhere, somehow, it is decided that your government or your army is going to war, destroying other countries, right? Destroying other people's life, traumatizing people for life, destroying cultural heritage. Why? And so there are always stories that come with that, the war on terror. We gotta kill all the terrorists. And I think, really? Is it that worth? If you see how many people in Iraq got killed after 9/11. Do you know how many? If you see what kind of bombs they threw in Iraq and how many children are born there with deformities. I think that 1 million people were killed, 100,000 are there with huge problems, children. That's not war on terror, that's war on a country, right? So we have to think, what is the story that we are told and how am I contributing? Do I just believe whatever they tell me, or do I going to look into this? Because I do believe that when my country bombs another country, I participate in that. And I somehow participate in that karma. Not as much as they, but it is part of my karma. And so I think at least we have to think about that. Right? Most of us are living very privileged. And it is not that privileged in most parts of the world. They're all working under very bad conditions or experiencing very bad conditions because of us. Right? And so now the virus is mainly happening to us, the privileged people. So I think maybe this is a time that we think about what are we doing and can we do things differently. Okay, let me have a look here. There's slave labor happening, that's true. Oil and chemical companies are funding many politicians around the world. We need to be more aware. So there is a lot of corruption happening. And the people who are living from these products that are so toxic for us, they make a lot of money and they have a lot of power. And I mean, at the moment you can see who has the most power in the world. Right? Mr. Gates. And Mr. Gates is everywhere. And he is funding everything from the patent of the virus to having the vaccine to everything that is in between. He's financing everything. So he is buying his place in the world. Right? And we have to really check, is that where we want to go? And how do I contribute to this? Someone says one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, which is true, right? We call the people who kill with bombs, we call them terrorists. But if you see the motivation why they're doing what they're doing, it often comes, I mean, not all of them, I cannot talk about everyone, and you can always come with exceptions to whatever I say. But if you see that your country gets bombed and you see maybe your mother dying or your father or other family members, or you can get so angry and you think, how can I get back? And you're going to kill back, and you're going to kill as many as you can. And you are prepared to give your life for that. You're prepared to give your life for the freedom of your people, you know. And then we call them terrorists, and we make them ultimately bad, truly existent bad people that need to be killed, and their whole country needs to be destroyed. You know, it is all a little bit, I think, exaggerated. And I think if you're a peaceful person and somebody harms you, you know, the first thing that you do is not totally kill that other person so that they can never harm you again. What you do is you say, oh, why did you just do that? And then that person says, I'm so angry with you because you come to my country, you take everything away that I have, and you steal my oil, and you steal this and you do that. And then I said, oh my gosh, you know, if I'm a really good-hearted, peaceful person, I wasn't aware of that. What do you need so that you start feeling good, and then maybe we can work together? Right? These are ways that things can be done. But if I'm a person who says, but I want everything that is in that country, I want that to be mine, and I don't care what price I'm going to pay for that, or what I need to do for that, then I'm prepared to do a lot just to get what I want. And that happens a lot in the world, you know. And in a way, I think the fact that we've witnessed all that means that we have created causes to experience that, to see that, to be part of that. So we can think about, okay, what is the cause for environmental karma? What is the cause for living in a world where all these things are happening? What have we done that we have the karma to experience that? So environmental karma is one kind of karma, but that is closely related to, if we think in terms of purification, and we think about how do I purify my environmental karma, then, and we talk about the 4 purifying powers. Are you aware of this, or do I go too fast? So in Buddhism, what we say, we have created certain karma. For many karmas, we have seeds in our mind that will be experienced once the conditions arise. When the time is right, we will experience that. That doesn't mean that everything is necessarily going to ripen. It also doesn't mean we cannot do anything. So in Buddhism, we have what we call the practice of the 4 opponent powers. And normally we combine that with Vajrasattva practice, which is the purification practice. So Vajrasattva is a type of deity that we have who represents our own inner wisdom. So in terms of the 4 opponent powers, there is the power of regret, which says, oh my gosh, I have done that. Not just I'm sorry for the other person, but I'm also sorry for me, because one day that's going to come back to me. Oh my gosh, I better purify it now so that the result cannot come back to me. Right? So if I try if I want to do a purification practice so that a result doesn't come back to me, what I need to do is I need to generate strong regret and acknowledge what I've done. I've done that, you know, and I deeply, deeply regret. And I really need to feel that. When we really have regret, then the experience won't come back, or won't come back so intense. So with regret, we purify the experience. Then another type of karma was that we have the habit of engaging in similar actions. And so what helps to do that is that we make a determination that we say, no, don't want to do that anymore. Or I'm going to do that less. Or I'm not going to do it for one day. And so we set a determination of not doing that in order to slowly, slowly change the habit. So that's the second way that we purify karma. And then the third karma that we can purify is that environmental karma. So how do we do that? We do that by taking refuge and by generating the mind of bodhicitta, the mind that wishes all sentient beings to be happy and free of suffering. Because whatever negativity that we have done that with respect to either sentient beings or with respect to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, right? That's the only option that we have. So when we take refuge, you know, if you're not a Buddhist and if you do not know about Buddha, but Buddha actually represents the fulfillment of our own potential that we have for wisdom and compassion. So when we take refuge in the Buddha, we take also refuge in our own inner potential. Once we have totally developed that potential, we achieve the state of a Buddha. We achieve the state of full awakening. So our own inner potential, that is the real refuge. Right? So we take refuge in that, and we then generate the mind that is concerned with the welfare of all sentient beings. And so that comes back to what I just was talking about, that caring mind. You know, caring for everyone. So when we open up the heart and we start caring for everyone, that environmental karma starts to purify. The more we take care of others, and others is human beings, is animals, you know, and if you see what we're doing with the planet in terms of toxification, that is damaging so many sentient beings, right? And also the planet itself, but due to that toxification, the sentient beings can't live there anymore. So by generating the mind that is concerned with sentient beings and sincerely thinks about their benefit and sincerely thinks about how we can take care in a better way, that helps to purify the environmental karma. right? So we can do all of them. But I don't know, I think the main one is the experience that we have, because that is related to the fear that we experience, to the anxiety that we experience. And then the other one is the environmental karma. All right. Are there any questions? Let me have a look. No questions. How are you feeling when we talk about this? Are people still here, or did everybody leave? Do the 4 opponent powers help us to lessen the fear? Someone is feeling sick and somebody's feeling sad. Yeah. And I think, you know, if we can look at that aspect of us, you know, what binds us together here on this planet Earth is that we are all here. What impelled us coming here is our attachment. Without attachment, we cannot be here. And so out of attachment is coming from this self-grasping mind, which is all about me. I want this good. I like this one. I'm all about me, right? We all have that attachment. And so when we start looking at what that is actually doing to others, you can get sick, you know, and you can feel sad. Because I'm sure no one of you wants to hurt anybody else. But due to our attachment, we become less concerned with the welfare of others. And so that having less concern makes that there's going to be some indirect harm, no? And we can blame the big companies who are doing all this, but it is our lack of concern that makes that they get the space to do this. And I mean, they have very good strategies, and they can totally fool us with their beautiful stories. You know, they're only telling us everything is going to be better. Everything is going to be better. And you're going to be more happy, and you're going to have more. But we have to check, is that really true? So the 4 opponent powers, I think they can lessen our fear, because when we really acknowledge that we have contributed to the situation, there's no one to blame, right? We did certain actions in the past, and that has created the situation, and we're all in the same boat. No one to blame. We cannot blame. I mean, you can see that things are happening in the world, but if we didn't have the causes to witness that, to experience that, it would not happen, or we would not experience what we are experiencing. So I think once we say, okay, I have my own responsibility in this, and I'm going to purify that, I do think it helps you to reduce your fear. Yes, definitely. Definitely. Control of my life, let alone outside. Yes, we're not in control of our life. Yes, you feel disconnected by listening to this? You know, or do you, I think when you start becoming aware where we all have been disconnected, that actually already shows that connection is happening. And that you have a need for connection. And that that you are tuning into that. You know, most of the time we're not aware, we're not connected. We think it's just normal, that's just what we all do. Right? But slowly, slowly, we have been becoming less caring and less caring and less caring for the whole. I had made some video slides, but maybe it's too late. You know what? Maybe I'll show you. So there was one thing that how we behave in a different way than in Buddhist, right? So I'm gonna, let me see how I share that. Share the screen. Oh, I have to do like this. Maybe I just disappeared. So if we look into feeling and action, right? We think, I follow my feelings. I follow my feelings, you know, and I do whatever I feel like. Oh no, I'm not feeling good here anymore. I'm moving away to somewhere else. So there is first a feeling, and then we engage in action. If we have pleasant feelings arising in the mind, then we move more towards the object. If unpleasant feelings arise in the mind, we move away from the object, right? This is how our mind works. So what do we do in Buddhism? We turn it around and we say, I'm not just following my feelings, I'm going to check what kind of actions I'm doing, right? So the top one is how we engage. We see something, we feel something, oh, and that causes we think that causes us a pleasant feeling to arise in the mind. Oh, I want to have more of that. Right? In Buddhism, we say, okay, there is something that causes a pleasant feeling to arise. Or no, there is an object. What shall I do with the object so that later pleasant feelings will arise in my mind? So in Buddhism, they analyze much more the actions that they're doing. They're very aware of abstaining from harm. They're very aware of how can I be of benefit. So instead of following the feeling, they are more concerned with what kind of actions am I doing. So the more we are looking at so one Lama, he once said, oh, you Westerners, you're so obsessed with your feelings. That's your biggest problem. You know, and in the beginning you think, oh, what are you talking about? Because we are so educated on that you have to feel good. But if you think about where feelings, if you would see feelings as a result, what are you talking about? Because we are so educated on that you have to feel good. But if you think about where feelings, if you would see feelings as a result instead of as a cause, so feeling is not the cause of your action, but feeling is the result of your actions. You know, then you start checking your actions. And so then you make sure that when you see yourself moving into a harmful action, or if you see yourself moving into a non-caring action, or if you say, oh, how can I do that differently? And then you change your action. So feeling is both the cause and the result, you know, they're interwoven with each other. So yes, when feelings arise, there is an action, but also when there is an action, feeling arises. So they go together all the time. And so what we do, we focus on the feeling. And what Buddhism says is try to focus on the action. And not worry too much about what you're feeling today. Right? What we're feeling today is the result of something that we just have to let go. You know, the karma has already ripened, and now we just have to make sure that that karma gets finished. So what is the best way to finish quickly karma? To start engaging in virtuous karma. the more virtue we create, the more caring mind we can create, the more compassion we can create, the more insight, the more wisdom we create, the sooner this is done. All right. So yeah, we had a slow start, no? It is almost 5:30 and I haven't gone to the nature of reality. I might leave that for next time. So can you do something with this, or would you like to have more information? This is so useful. Thank you very much. Results are the feelings are the result and action of an action. Yes. Yes. I always think of that Dalai Lama's mosquito, that he says, if you think you cannot make any impact on the world, think about the mosquito at night in your room, right? So there you can see that even if we just change our own mind, you know, you can think, how can I change the karma of the whole world? But if we really can change that, you will have an effect on the whole world. You know, every change we make will have an effect. Everything we do has an effect. So wherever we can change the mind, you know, rejoice in that. Say, wow, I was able today to do that differently. I was able today to not do it like that, but to do it in a different way. And you rejoice wholeheartedly. You know, you say, tomorrow I'm going to try again. Yes. Right? And then slowly, slowly, slowly we can work towards purifying this karma, letting it come totally to an end, you know. And then if we really use these techniques and start opening the heart for others, start caring more for others, you know, then at the same time the world that we are going towards becomes a more open world, a more caring world. I quite like that. Don't know about you. So next time I will talk about the nature of reality, how we can look at that, and about the mind training, how we can use mind training to transform. And I hope I'm not putting again too much on the agenda, because I do want to try to finish it next week, but we'll see how we go. I'll stay open for whatever happens. All right. So I hope that this has given you a little bit of feeling that you can do a lot, that we are not just victims of the situation, that we're actually participants of the situation, and that by becoming more aware of our actions, and not just of our direct actions, but the actions in the big picture. Think about everything that is that you're buying in the shop, that is in your home. Where is it coming from? And try to connect to that place in the world, and try to connect with those people that have worked with us, and try to generate an attitude of kindness and of gratitude, and then see what that is going to do with your fear. You know, I think it might have a positive effect on that. Okay. I'll see if I can make a nice video of putting all this together. I'm not sure. Otherwise, I don't know. We'll see. But I'll try to have that up in a couple of days on YouTube. And on Tuesday, we have a meditation at the same time as this session started. I'm not sure what we talk about. Maybe about how everything is coming from the kindness of others. Okay. No fear. I hope so. Thank you so much for being here and for your patience with all the technical problems that we had at the beginning. And I hope to see you next time.